preface. Lifestyles of the rich and famous twitch, and they'll paint us all into a corner. And I don't need a corner pointing to the corpse in the corridor saying that there's what's left of the American dream. So hold on, because this is another one of those un-American-themed rants where the unrealistic undergrad slants a poetic protest in which pretext and context are slashed at reduced prices, because what you're going to see is a going out of business sale, but it's more like our civic duty to loot, since these are the bullet points promoted and flagged and bannered all around town. So let's just grab ourselves a few stars and stuff them down into our pillowcases. Lifestyles of the rich and famous blink, and they're all going to name us infamous, which is stylistically different than famous, but it is in fashion for fascists, because we all went in with the best intestines, and only now do we have the guts to make changes after the fact. After this little tummy ache has become tomorrow's gastrointestinal tumult, tomorrow's gastrointestinal assault, because I'll admit to being out of order, irregular in a sense. And if this band of brotherhood makes us Siamese twins, then by default, you gotta be out of order too. And then, if we're following this brown trail of logic, then that bathroom's out of order from all the shit we volunteered to eat, lined us up at the new trough, and then lied and lined our stomach lining with yesterday's rearranged stock exchange. And don't preach to me about shelf life, how we should turn our head and keep looking ahead. No. If I've learned anything in U.S. history, it's that anger has no termination date, regardless of what's transpired, regardless of who's expired in our neighbor's big backyard sandbox, convinced that they were over there as ants in God's garden, just looking for something to bite. And I'm willing to bet that underneath gut-shot tourniquets, we won't note any other whites or blues, just cranberry hues and nothing the least bit sweet. Besides, how do you talk shelf life when these days signs on car bumpers display away, hands bound in union, praying for a safe return? It just may not click that God probably screens his calls when some of the mother's arms that held them were connected to hands that voted for the creation of their own concerns. Lifestyles of the rich and famous, and by now you got to be getting tired of this refrain. It's a reminder of Greg Louganis, and see, that's something of a poetic fib, because I'm really just trying not to rhyme the word anus. Because some of us might still be gainfully employed, bending over the last rung of the ladder, displaying the next evolutionary step of learning how to talk from the base of your spine. But our high office G.I. Joe got us beat, turning common nature into legislature with their south mouth. So I won't stand close should I ever ask them if they have the time. Lifestyles of the rich and famous stitched into a moral cloth most heinous, where a politician could care deeply where you deposit your own penis, whether it's in a rhubarb or in a light socket or in a textbook or in an atypical pocket, right next to your next contribution. It confounds my interpretation of the Constitution how the pursuit of liberty could ever be interpreted as mere illusion if your plan is to walk hand in hand, man to man. How that could possibly be a fault against one's constitution, because it's not as if the hetero and federal types got a clue as to bringing fidelity into fruition. Lifestyles of the rich and famous, if you don't speak, then they gain the right to restrain us, contained in our little Tupperware lids. This is the belt of a middle class that can't even afford caviar dreams, or steamed snail spleens, or whatever horrific hors d'oeuvres are preferred whenever the working class waiter works his ass over here with the fancy snacks already. Lifestyles of the rich and famous, and if you think, then they're all going to frame us for thought crime, but not mine, because I bought rhymes legally, hoping to use U.S. tender against U.S. lender, because the American eagle is really just a turkey with scotch-shaped wings who flash right over these minor economic specifics, forcing us to take back the medals of the winners from the Special Olympics to smelt them down into hollow points to make a hollow point. Lifestyles of the rich and famous, easier than saying up with the proletariat, because it's got to be a statement catchy and strong enough to carry it through this poem. And the repeating verse kind of dates me, sure, but everything retro is cool now, right? So this prolonged period of unlubed fucking isn't really too new. This epic epoch of Robin and being leached is something like the 70s, back at one big horrible friction disco where the government uses contrived pickup lines and pays someone to spike our drink so that they can fondle and grind against us in an atmosphere of repeated catchphrases from last year. And we all get something to wake up with the next morning, a collapsed asshole from a prolapsed asshole. Here's a shiny piece of thought. Would we refund our hopes if we knew that these wishing wells had eaten away all of our change?
That's it. Okay.